Now for an introduction. So apparently, in the past year or so, although nothing has ever really been said or nothing has really happened in this timeless aliveness, there has been a passionate illumination through words to express this energetic silence that cannot be spoken of. This energy, this aliveness, this timelessness, this unknowingness, this radiance, this emptiness that's unknowable does not really require any introduction or even a discussion, because this is already obvious. Because what is being expressed is unspeakable, although this communication is often called non-duality. Non-duality is what is being expressed, but there's no such thing as non-duality. There's no such thing as non-duality communication. The simple and most direct definition of the undefinable non-duality is simply not two, which really suggests that it cannot be communicated because there's no subject or object. There's no speaker. There's no listener. There's no seeker. There's nothing. Apparently, non-duality's apparent roots came from Advaita's monistic suggestion that there's only a singularity without division, or there's only Brahman and the rest is illusion, which is rooted from Hinduism. However, this communication also appears in Zen, Christian mysticism, Lao Tzu, and many, many others that are really belief systems. In recent times, although there's no time, what is supposed to be without division is apparently being expressed as multiple interpretations that are contradictory to each other. Madness, isn't it? The most popular amongst many variations outside of spiritual and practice-based non-duality seemingly stems from two. There's a satsang-based self-inquiry, direct pointing, which is often led by a teacher or a guru who have realized, transcended, often labeled as awakened masters or sages or enlightened teachers, or mystics. So the attractive non-dual teachings are proliferated by seekers who are seeking the ultimate attainment of the non-dual state, enlightenment. But there's no such thing. Seemingly, oh, sorry, I'm going to answer that. I'm going to finish the introduction first. Sorry, I'll answer that in a bit. Sorry. I know there's a lot of excitement in this. So seemingly about 20 years ago, there's this open secret communication that was the catalyst and a radical departure from that spiritual confinement of non-dualistic expression, spoken in a somewhat in a more accessible to modern set of seekers audience that seems to have really increased during the internet, Zoom, pandemic, and it's beginning to segue into the AI era. This direct communication is an uncompromising message that is both fundamental, simply not two, and also asserting that there's no one. Simply there's no one because it's simply no two. The message seemingly demystifies the mythology of separation by asserting the obvious. This is all that there is. It's just this. And exposes the meaninglessness of words by utilizing a rigid, uncompromising way of speaking that apparently exhausts the seeker into oblivion by not feeding the narrative, often resulting in a glimpse or clarity of what is, and nothing really happens. So this speaker started as a teacher and seemingly is speaking about nothing at all. But lately, and this is just a story, this doesn't really matter. I had the opportunity to speak to both audiences because I had to cancel a whole bunch of in-person meetings. So I was communicating with an audience basically that was coming from the satsang group, which is usually from a sangha of a belief system that is usually rooted in spirituality, Hinduism, um, non-duality. And there was also another group that was been listening to this radical, uncompromising communication. With utmost respect for all speakers and all of the teachers that has courage to speak in razor sharp clarity, that is just this, that seems to obliterate any fog or any confusion of what is. What seems to happen when there is this, this duality in this communication is that there seems to be this confusion. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna answer that in a moment. Sorry, I know. Yeah. I'll answer that. Sorry. I hope you don't mind the long intro. Just trying to set up something that does not really need some setting up. I don't know where I was. So yeah, so there's this usual kind of like, there's this communication which is based on awareness, consciousness, that there is just awareness. You can call it, unaware. I can't really remember the words, and there's also this other side, which is there's no me. Again, with respect to both, there is just this. And what this is cannot really be communicated. But the seeming difference between the two is there's seemingly a belief system that is rooted in the most fundamental existence of a character. The fundamental existence of a character usually roots from a source, usually roots from a belief that this is a creation. And the opposite side of the coin, there is this seeming uncertainty, no position, there's nothing to know, there's no source, there's no belief system. It's just this. And there seems to be a going back and forth. I talk to a lot of people that have been seeking for a long time in radical non-duality, also seeking for a long time in spiritual based or applied non-duality, and they seem to have similarities that is being noticed. What seems to happen is that whatever they are believing or whatever they are disbelieving is held onto as the truth, is held onto as the ultimate, is held onto as the absolute. And there's nothing wrong or right in positions. It's just what is. It's just what is. But what's being spoken about here is neither a belief or a non-belief system. What's being spoken about here is neither about awareness or no me, because there's no such thing as awareness or no me. It's just this. So in that communication with the group in one group, the two groups in one group, it kept on running into this this seeming obstacles in words. And if you were here in the last 3 days that I did, we talked about, or no one talked about, the dissolution of words, the tumbling of all the words that is held onto as just a narrative, as not having any meaning, not having any purpose, because every single word is made up. Since simply there's no two, everything that has been spoken about, regardless of what style of communication, are all made up. So the seeming stuckness in both camps are in words, and the words that seemingly holds the idea that they're almost there, that there is a getting of this. It doesn't matter if a person is coming from the awareness thing that, they're practicing being aware of consciousness, or tuning inwards, or listening to what seems to be, resonating. Or it could be the opposite, which is the seeing through all of that as just another illusion. But who is seeing through all of this? If there's no me, if there's no awareness, what is it then? So what's being expressed here in the next 3 days is that The message of this is not a message. This is just a simplification of a word and really just using this that cannot be spoken about as a reset, as an empty word that does not have any meaning. There seeming to be a stuckness in awareness or nothing being everything, but both are words. So what is being expressed is this is inexpressible. The words about this are just words. This appears as the silence in every word, but there is no word that can capture this. This cannot be captured in words. So seemingly, even though there is really no assertion here, there's nothing really to figure out and everything, the words that are synonymous to this unspeakableness is unknowable, wordless, not two, without an opposite, wholeness, unconditional freedom, nothingness, aliveness, boundlessness. So even if these words seemingly kind of like seems to have a somewhat of a resonance, who's resonating? It's not about knowing all of these words. It's the unknowing of all of these words. These words are just markers of something that cannot be spoken about. It does not really have a meaning or purpose. When I was speaking to that group, because we were doing all of this, the word this almost became a blackout word or a stop sign of all the thoughts. It's a reconciliation of the imagined estrangement of separation that is seemingly caused by words. Words that seemingly are very important seems to lose its meaning. So it's almost like that there's a hypnosis that happens with words that are held onto, that are belief systems that are seemingly held onto as something that can liberate, but there are no words that can liberate. This character has been writing a preface and been revising it over and over and over and over and over and over. I'm up to Ileana. I'm up to 5 revisions now. Because there seems to be no introduction to what cannot really be introduced. And the words are just basically obstacles to this energeticness, this aliveness that cannot really be captured in words. And what seems to be expressed and exposed is that even throughout this 3 days of this assertion that there's nothing happening, even if it feels like it's happening completely, what's being suggested is the completion or the wholeness of statements, kind of like when someone's saying that there's no one here, even if it feels absolutely real. There's no time, but it feels like time is going because it's the same. It can't neither be this or that. It's just this. It encompasses everything that seems to be happening and not happening. Because what seems to be understood sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with it, there's nothing wrong or right, even when it's being expressed that nothing being everything, it tries to follow that logic. There's no logic in it. There's no meaning in it. It's the same thing as saying as aware of being aware. That's dualistic. Because the moment that the character, although there's no character, even if it feels absolutely real, steps into that ideology of nothing, it tries to process what nothing is, but it cannot be processed. It tries to understand something that can never be understood. It tries to grasp something that cannot be grasped. And by grasping words, it's just pointless. So what's the point of this intro? Nothing. So what's being expressed here that this is absolutely nothing. Although it means something, or there's a confusion of what, if there's a point. There's no point to anything at all. That there's no seeking really happening here. Although it feels like there's a seeking that's happening. So what's being expressed here is that in the next 3 days, it's just be an expression of this timeless aliveness that cannot be captured in words, although words are going to be said. So again, what this is not words. What this is not an understanding. What this is not a meeting, although it feels like this is being expressed in words in a meeting. I'm going to answer some questions because there's a whole bunch of questions that's coming up here. There's no point to this intro at all. And that's the point. There's no point in seeking and something that's already here. There's no point in trying to figure out what's being said here when it's already expressed. There's another question here. Can you talk about, what's that? Sorry. Can you talk about eternity? It can't really be talked about eternity because this is happening in time. And this is also timeless. Eternity is something that is an idea of some time of time going on forever. But there's no time to go on forever because this is already what is. Question here. How long are these? Oh, yeah, these meetings are about 2 hours, and there's a break in between for an hour, and then there's another meeting. So for three 2-hour meetings per day. Yeah. So if you have any questions, please go ahead. You can also ask a question by raising your hand. It has come down to this. When words are just completely meaningless and it just really doesn't matter. It's just basically an expression that this is just this. So this is already complete. Although it feels like there's something lacking, this is already what is. And what is, it's not a philosophy, it's not it can't be defined, it cannot be known. Is this also part of the illusion? Okay, that's a good question there. So this, what's being expressed, is neither this or not this. The words is just basically trying to express that it's all this. But all of this that is seemingly happening is not also happening. So what you think and what you cannot think about is this. What you see and what you cannot see is this. For example, what seems to be happening in a vision is that there is solidity, there's separation and everything, but it misses the space that appears. The space that appears is always there, but it's invisible. So this is the visible and the invisible. This is the what is said and what is not said. This is what is heard and what is not heard. This is just everything and nothing. So this is the simultaneousness of everything, or everything happening all at once, but not the thinking of it or not the thinking of it. It's just this. So this is basically expressing that there's nothing separate. So the intro basically was just this seeming kind of like duality, non-duality, and basically expressing it that there is no this or that. It's just this. The separation is only in the perception of it all. Yeah. The separation is just this and missing this, but nothing is really being missed in this. There's just a perceiving that there's something that's missed and it's something that is seen. But there is a spontaneity in everything that is happening without the perceiver. So there's this seeming kind of like division, which is the thinking or the thoughts in this vastness of silence. And this seeming division appears as words, as thoughts, as ideas, but there's just this openness in everything, which is just this. So when what is being expressed is just this. It's both. It's the sound and the silence simultaneously appearing like this. Hi, Emerson. Can you talk about the dying of the character and the heavy emotions that comes up? Sure. Seemingly, I've been getting a lot of that question. It's actually not the character that's dying, but the belief system, because there's no character in the first place. So there seems to be holding on to what is, what is important, seemingly important. There's nothing really important. It's a belief system of existence. It's the idea about relationships. It's the idea about faith, hope, all of that. So when there is this heaviness of what's happening, it's just this seeming entanglement of something. It's kind of like holding on to something that cannot be held onto. Holding on to the past, for example, if the character has a lot of historic, traumatic moments that seems to repeat and cycle over and over again, when it's exposed that it's just this. Although it feels heavy, it's also empty. It's just this. So all of that being held on to, there's this holding on to. I can only speak on behalf of this character who's this cyclical pattern of holding on to a belief system. What I was holding on to was the source or the self or the idea of a higher consciousness or the absolute truth. When it became such a slippery slope, right? Because every time that I held on to, I would fall flat and be miserable. I'm like, why do I keep on holding on to something that cannot be held on to? Why do I hold on to a belief system? Who's really holding that? So that cyclical pattern of falling down or heaviness and everything is the seeming construction of believing this, but not this. Holding on to this, but not this. So when the division is gone, it's just this. So even if the belief, if it's seen really, it just completely disappears. Any thinking about the past vanishes. Any delusions about reality evaporates. It's just this. But thank you for that question. But yeah, there's just, especially when there's a long time seeker, what is actually seemingly happening is the seeker is holding on to that seeker because it becomes its identity. So it's a loss of that identity of whatever it is. It could be a historic idea of what it is, or it could be this idea of what it could be. Hi, Maria.
Hello.
Hello.
Um, just going on from that, isn't that then also just this though?
Yeah, it's all this.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like the reason that this message is so loving to me is that I can stop trying to improve.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so because my mind or something can make anything into another like stick to beat myself with. And so the kind of no frillsness of this message is, and that's why something in me seeks that like vocabulary from a speaker where it just, my mind can't hijack it into another way that I failed.
Yeah, so that's what's being proposed here. It's just this, right? So no matter what this is, there's peace in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no matter what comes up, there's always peace in this. And no matter what words, you know what I'm saying, that are utilized, it's just really just this. And what this is cannot be said in words, although it appears in words and everything, right? But there's just this, it's almost like the this, what's being expressed as this is almost like a comfort zone, a safety zone, that nothing is really being said. There's
Yeah.
just this peace. Yeah.
Yeah. And it feels too simple almost.
It is.
And then
It's
it's like,
just
no, no,
really,
no.
really simple. Yeah. And but what seems to happen in a meeting like this, right? There's always going to be a grasping of words and everything. So what's just being exposed is just to really simplify it, that whatever is thrown out as a word and everything, right? You know, for example, you can say that I feel like I am getting confused with these words. And I can say, that's also this. There's no problem with that. It's not about, you know, trying to get it. Or someone will say that, you know, the opposite, like, I think I'm grokking it. Although there's nothing to grok, it's also this. It's almost like simultaneously um, accepting and rejecting. It can't be thought about, if you know what I'm talking about. But there's
I know
peace in
exactly
it.
what you mean. It's
Yes.
like,
Good,
it's
good.
impersonal, the most impersonal intimacy.
It is because when I was having these meetings with like some people that have been in a Zanga, you know what I'm saying, for like 20, 30 years, right? They were coming up with a whole bunch of you know, spiritual kind of like, you know, like, how about dukkha, which is suffering, and I'm like, they were using all of their language. And I'm like, well, it's also this, but it's also not this. So it almost dissolves that. It's like, okay, all right. And it's not, if it, everything is basically laid out, and it's basically kind of like accepted and also not accepted. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, it's accepted but not believed.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah, because it's just what is, right? So it's not about being right or wrong, because there's no such thing as being right or wrong.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's just an allowance of what is, even if what is cannot be talked about. It's basically the unconditionality of acceptance of whatever it is, even if it seems unacceptable. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Okay. And it
Yeah,
it
like
almost kind of like, it almost kind of like disarms the seeker into kind of like, oh shit.
it's kind of like the recognition that it's already allowed.
It already is. Yeah. It's already,
Yeah.
there's nothing, because what seems to happen, and it's just, you know, it's really funny, is that although there is already this that is already complete, it's already clear, the words that seem to come out almost kind of like gets in the way of the clarity. So without the words, without the perception, without the meaning, without the entanglement, without kind of like positions and everything, it's already, it's almost like silencing the source of that, because it doesn't have any source. It's meaningless.
Mm. I think the one thing that keeps me, or keeps something like floating around in a future and a past, or believing in a future and a past, is that I don't find it very comfortable to be in my body a lot of the time.
And that's okay. And that's also this.
Right.
Yeah. It's not giving you anything, you know what I'm saying? Because it's not saying that, well, you know what, it's just what is as well.
Mm.
It's also this. So it doesn't create this kind of like there's something wrong, there's something that needs to be corrected, or there's still a me here. It's just what is. Whatever it is, it's appearing already perfectly as it is.
Even believing there's still a me.
Yes. Because there's
Okay.
this idea that when I lose the me, then I will not I will not have any more of these feelings.
Yeah.
There is this perception that, when I drop the me, then I will not have any more problems. So usually this is what happens when there is a seeing, kind of like, for example, somebody has a glimpse of like, oh wow, and then they are happy for a couple of days. The moment that somebody tells them that, by the way, you've been fired at work. So
Yeah.
the idea, so all of a sudden, kind of like apparent reality settles in because you have not worked for the past 2 days because you've been running around hugging trees and everything. and then, and then when you get fired, you're like, oh, I got the me again. There was no me in the first place. But even if it feels like there's a me, or even if it feels like that there's a no me.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter if it's this blissful experience of like this, oh wow, this is infinity, or this horrible experience of being stuck, in your problems. Both are the same.
Wow.
Yeah.
That there's no me, that there's no me when I think there's no me, that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
That's the same.
That's the
No.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna stay with it.
All
Thank
right.
you. I'll be back.
All right. Yeah. How can there be clarity when I don't know anything? So clarity appears in knowing and unknowing. It's the what's that? It's what is already. There's always clarity. There's always, let's even call it aliveness or awakeness. What seems to appear is just this. It doesn't matter if there's knowing or unknowing, it's always this. There's no other than this. So what seems to go on in a character is that there is this going back and forth of knowing and not knowing. There seems to be a position of this or that, but this or that is always this. If you want to add more to that, Leela, please go ahead. Let's even take away the word clarity, because that also implies that there is a confusion. And just replace it with it's just this, whatever it is that appears, confusion or clarity, aliveness, tiredness, whatever it is always just this. It's just really a simplification of positions, of definitions. This or that is always this. Yeah. Much better than I am that. Yeah. Yeah, because there's always a personalization. So the moment that the I am appears, it comes from a source. But there's no source in this. Source or no source are the same. But what seemingly holds on to that position of not being there is the I am. And even when it says I am that, is just another position. It's the no position, which is just another position. It is. I am as a position or a point of view. Exactly. Exactly. Even a no me is a position of no position. It's just basically expressing the obvious. The obvious is that there is always going to be a position, even if there's no position. There's always going to be what is, even if it is not. And it's because it's just this. So when this is just seen and unseen, it includes everything. It includes the seer, it includes the seeker, it includes the speaker. It's just this. So this is everything and nothing. And not even that. Almost like I think I know, always trying to grab this when there's nothing to hold on to, but that it's to yes, exactly. I talk to a lot of characters that seems to have clarity, maybe for a couple of days and everything, and then they encounter another position. So although there is this positionlessness, meaning that the character is in this bliss, that there's really no positions, when it encounters another position, it adapts that. And it creates this confusion. It's kind of like, oh, and some of the people are actually here. This, I usually get a call after like a one-on-one, and then they hear another position, I'm not going to name who, of another speaker saying that, I am God, or, affirmations basically. I am consciousness, I am the source, all of that affirmations. Then it creates this confusion because there's no position. And how come someone has an assertion or a position when it's seen that there's no position? So it creates this lack that maybe I have not recognized something yet, but there's no you to recognize or not recognize. It's just this. Or even it's just even flip it to the other side. And even similarly, when someone hears that another kind of like new speaker or speaker said that there's no me, when that character is feeling that there's a me, then it compares that to the speaker that's saying that there's no me, and basically maintains that position as a comparison. Then all of a sudden it's comparing that, how come this speaker is saying that there's no me, but I feel that there's a me here? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So no me and a me is the same thing. Feeling that there's no me and feeling that there's no me is the same experience. But the experience is an illusion. What am I drinking? Vodka. Just kidding. Water. Does prayer make the dream better? Why not? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't really matter because there's no one choosing to pray or not. It doesn't really matter. If it seems to make things better in the dream, why not? But there's really nothing wrong or right about anything. But there's really no one praying or not praying or being prayed to. All that kind of stuff is just another. Yeah, but it's also this. I see my mom pray a lot, and I'm not going to go there and stop her and say, hey, you know what? It's perfectly as it is already. My mom has gone through so much, saying, and then she clutches her rosary and she prays and closes her eyes. And then I see her with so much aliveness, and there's nothing wrong or right about that. It's just what is. Thank you. Me, me, making machine, artificial intelligence, just reflecting back everything said before. The Buddhists call it the 10,000 things. Yeah, I actually have been playing a lot with the AI, with the chat GPT, and it's quite fascinating. It's quite funny actually if you question chat AI about um the GPT, if you talk to the artificial intelligence about non-duality as it is, not a it always goes back into philosophy. It always goes back into in conclusion, and it always offers a solution. It always offers kind of like it's not quite there, and that's almost the same as a me. The chat GPT, the AI, the artificial intelligence that is just going bonkers right now, is quite fascinating actually, is the same thing as the me. It's the 10,000 things. It just reflects back everything that was said. Please repost link to first lecture from last retreat, the collapse of the empire of words. What about the collapse of the empire of images? Yes. So I think I talked about that in some of the meetings, that what is seen here, right? So what's seen is separation already, because there's a seeing of colors, there's a seeing of objects, there's a seeing of solidity, there's a constant, there's some immediacy of labeling. It's almost like the AI is so advanced that it doesn't even require processing. So when it sees a glass, it calls a glass. When it sees Angie, Eliana, it just sees right there what it is right away. But what is also being missed is just there is the unseen, like the space between us. Or if we really look at things, for example, if you put everything under a microscope, like one of those crazy microscope, that it's actually nothing. You will never see someone's name, someone's identity. It's just what is. So the collapse of the empire of images is basically is simultaneous with the collapse of words. So the words are meaningless. Everything that's seen is also meaningless. This is going ahead of what I'm going to say later, but it's almost like what is being missed is that what is seen is an internal interpretation of something that does not have internal or external, meaning that what is being seen is almost like the opposite. When you're looking outside, you're actually looking inwards. So everything is seemingly happening inside your mind, although there's no mind. Without that mind, without that interpretation, without that artificial intelligence that seems to label everything, everything is seen as like, oh, what is this? There's no separation. It's just this whole that you can't even say about. Hi, Emerson. Thank you so much for doing this. This is beginning to clarify a lot of things for me. I was stuck with there's no me, this is not happening, but who notices that exactly? There seems to be when there is a belief system just goes in circles, right? So when there's a belief that there's no belief, it's just another belief. So when there's a belief that there's no me, there's just a belief again that it just goes in circles. The illusion is is a closed loop. It just goes cyclical because it becomes this or that. It's all this. DAL-E and ChatGPT are like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Yeah, there's no saving anything on board down the rabbit hole. Yes, exactly. And the ChatGPT basically is the same as the functioning of the me. It just operates in knowledge. It just functions in knowing. So again, words that are being expressed, for example, there's nothing, is just another knowing. It suggests, it's clear, it's very clear that there's really nothing, but the knower can only operate in knowing. It just rearranges the deck chairs on the Titanic. It's going to sink. And before it sinks, it announces that it's the king of the world, the master of the universe, or I am that. It creates these affirmations. It's so funny when there is this affirmations of I am God, I am that, I am consciousness. It's just another narrative. There's a knower there. Even if it says that there's no knower, that stems from a knowing. So knowing just goes, in a rabbit hole. It's looking through that glass, kind of like in Alice in Wonderland.
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Why does when this message is felt, it feels free and light, and then I go hang out with some people at a bar and I feel like contracted and shitty? Like, I know that's all this.
Yeah.
And there's no right or wrong, but why
Yeah.
does this feel right and that feels wrong?
Because there is a perceiver that seems to think that there is something right or wrong. Although it's being pointed out that there's really no perceiver. So both experiences, are illusions. So this experience of free and everything is an illusion. And that experience of, contractedness and everything is an illusion. Both are the same.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, but the experiencer is you. Since you are an experience, you're just an experience, right? So you're going to experience either good or bad, either free or not, but both are the same.
As in, I'm an experiencer when I believe I'm an experiencer.
Yes, you are the experience, but experiences are illusions. So everything that you experience is an illusion, but the experience is reality. See how tricky it is?
Can you say that again?
Okay, yeah. So, you, everything about you is an experience, right? So you're experiencing that you are real, you are separate, you are sad, you are glad, you are free, you are not free. But all experiences are illusion. But the illusion of, but reality is an illusion, and that's what you're experiencing. So you're experiencing everything as real, but you are an illusion. So you're basically like real and unreal simultaneously.
Yes.
Yes.
And the me who thinks that they're experiencing and who like has the like overlord view of it is just part of the soup.
It is. Yeah. It's like also an experience.
Yeah.
So me or no me are both experiences. Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's like taking yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So everything that is, everything, for example, like that, let's create a narrative. I'll say something like, oh, earlier today I was walking and it's brilliant. It's like this, there is, I can't express it in words. There's just this, the air, what I'm saying, seems free, and I'm walking in sunshine and everything. And then, I went home, and then I realized that I had to, the house flooded and everything. And it's like I was busy kind of like cleaning. Both are the same. What's attractive about this is there is this idea that the blissful walking around and, having this glimpse and everything is preferable, is what seems to obscure this, that no matter what this is already it. Because the one that is going back and forth in this experience of separation is the illusion. Yes.
Yeah.
The
opinionated.
It doesn't matter if you're kind of like having this horrible time with your friends. You're like, oh, this is horrible. I'm in a bar, and I just want to get out of here. That's a narrative. And you saying that, oh, it feels really free here. That's the same.
Because the person having those experiences is the experience itself. And
that's right.
Is it the illusion itself?
Is the illusion itself. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So it's chasing an illusion, hoping to change it with a better illusion, which will also be an illusion. So it's comparing, kind of like saying that, oh, I wish just, that this meetings would just be here forever, kind of thing, right? Because I always feel, free and everything. That experience might change. Oh, when will this end? Those are the same.
Right. And because what just struck is I keep getting people texting me tonight telling me to come to the bar.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I want to hang out to do these meetings.
Yeah.
But I also kind of want to go to the bar.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Bingo. It doesn't matter. So what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
That like the thing that I learned from this is that I'm not going to come to the next meeting.
Yeah. There's no one choosing to do that or not, right? It's just what is. There's it's always this. So it doesn't matter if you're in a bar, you know what I'm saying, or in this meeting. It doesn't matter, because there's really no you in the bar. There's no you in this meeting. although it feels like you're in the bar and you're in this meeting. It doesn't matter. That's what the freedom that's being expressed here, right? It doesn't matter.
And that's why it's so radical.
Yeah.
Because it's like saying that, I can feel it. I can see that now, that it's like the person who is free or not free is already an illusion anyway. So
yes. Yeah. It doesn't matter. It's just this. It's always this, no matter what. It could be, you know, going to a bar drinking. It could be here, you know, saying there's no correction.
Yeah.
If I was in a spiritual kind of like, you know, that's what I'm saying. The difference is with spiritual based kind of like or you know consciousness based, awareness basis, because there's a source and everything. It would most likely say, you know what I'm saying, that well, going to a bar, you know what I'm saying, you're not really focusing on the awareness.
Yes, and that is a massive narrative in my head. I've just realized.
Yeah. That you're not really, you know, you're not really settling into your true nature, or that you are not, you're going external. But there's no internal or external, doesn't it? And that's what I did. It's kind of funny because I was going through the most horrible time in my life at one point, and I was sitting in the seat of my consciousness, you know, when I was a teacher for quite a long time. And but my world was falling apart, and I just really wanted to go to, you know, just bawl out my eyes and cry and do a couple of shots with a couple of friends. But I forced myself for, I don't know for how long, you know, I'm like, okay, lengthen my spine, you know what, I'll go inward, you know, focus on the awareness and everything, close my eyes. But there was this feeling of like, am I missing something? Like, and then one day I just went to the bar. And it was just the same. But of course, after the bar, I felt horrible. I'm like, oh, I missed, you know what? If I would have stayed and listened to Emerson, I would have gotten this already. No.
Yeah, that's the voice.
There's this radical honesty here that there's nothing needed, which is bad for business, you know what I'm saying? Because it always can like, go, it's okay. You don't need this. But
and
that's
I don't,
what it is.
And yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think that it's like I don't need to remember either.
Mm-hmm. And again, if you stay, there's nothing wrong with it too. If you leave, there's nothing wrong with both. That introduction basically is saying that both are the same. The only thing that is kind of like the thin line that I keep on trying to express is that there's a hidden belief system that there's something wrong or there's something right. Both are the same. The belief that, you know what, I'm going to miss something, or the belief that the belief that, you know, that there's something wrong with going to the bar is it's a really thin line, right? It's a really thin line that is often missed, but that seems to be the controlling factor of what makes to it's that invisible line that keeps on kind of like thinking that you can control, but it's just what is. Yeah. So if I see you, good. If I don't see you, good.
I mean, I love these meetings. So
yeah,
hopefully I'll stay, but we don't know.
Because there's no one really choosing that. It's just innocence at play. It's just innocence at play.
And the commentator / judge can like retire basically.
It's actually, we really retired already.
How, just because once it comes in and it goes, that's it.
It's
There's
done.
no
continuity. It's done. Yeah. It's almost like, it's almost like, you know, when, okay, it's going to go dark. It's like when there is a dispatch, you know what I'm saying? It keeps on repeating over and over again. right? Oh, like for example, in a zombie movie, and then you go to see the dispatch and there's no one there. It's just a recording. There's really no one there. You get what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
you're listening to something that's already dead. It doesn't really matter because there's no such thing as this or that. Everything that we'll do is like, oh, this is better and this is not. But since there's no better and there's no good or bad, it's just really a redundant narrative of something that doesn't even exist.
And the whole like personification and the judge and the that's just playing into the narrative more, but that's already dead too.
It's already dead too. Yeah.
There's a great Ram Dass quote, which is like, you're already dead, you've already been forgotten, now you can live.
Yeah.
I love that one.
But there's no you.
Yeah, you should tell him. You should tell him. He is actually dead, but you should tell him. Yeah.
I was talking to him and I corrected him earlier, so I'm just joking.
Okay. Troll him on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm gonna troll him. But yeah, again, you know what? It's not about knowing or not knowing. It's this. It's just there's no one right. There's no one that got this. No one is an authority. Seemingly the authority that seems to kind of like go back and forth in Maria hides behind the authority of others. It hides in that broadcast. If you notice it.
Oh,
yeah. It hides. It doesn't have any authority, so it thinks that it hides by the authority of Emerson or Ram Dass or whatever, but none of those matter.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
I always have someone on a pedestal.
That's what I did for quite a long time.
Yeah. The habit is breaking, but
yeah.
It's very persistent because it's like so why is it persistent?
It's not actually. You just think it's persistent.
Ooh. Oh, okay. So it's like, yeah, it's like there's like a knitting. It's trying to like knit together everything. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that now.
All right. It's getting hot. Sensation is flowing, perception meaningless, all interpretation is illusion. Yes, it's just this seeming flow, right? There's this flowing. It's like I don't really like using the ocean and the wave. It's just waves without thinking about spirituality or anything. It's just what is. It doesn't really have any meaning. You don't have a head and there's nothing in it. Cal goes FOMO. Yes, there's always going to be a fear of missing out, all right? That there's got to be, for example, the moment you're in the bar, you're thinking that, oh, I'm missing out something there. And then the moment that you're kind of like just listening to this, I'm like, I should just be out there running around in the sunlight and smelling roses, drinking coffee, that kind of thing. There's always going to be, but what's being expressed is that there's nothing missing in both. Because there's no both. So the feeling of lack is also it. The feeling of longing is also it. The feeling of FOMO, which is the same as I was saying, is also the fear of there's nothing missing. It's just a feeling because the experiencer is an illusion. Could you talk about the loop of knowing? yes, for sure, for sure. The loop of knowing is, again, it's kind of like what I basically said earlier. It's like this dispatch, of that just goes into this cycle. This cycle basically is that it's an assertion of an existence, and then it doesn't really exist. So it's this or that, and it just goes in circle. It's kind of like, I got this, I lost this, I got this, I lost this, and it's maintained by the opposites. But what if I got this and I lost this is the same? There's no me, there's me. There's me, there's no me. There's meing, there's being. There's meing, there's being. It goes in a loop, in a loop, in a loop. There's something missing. Oh, nothing's missing. It's all the same. So it's basically a words looping back and forth. When there is, when the words are basically exposed as not really meaningless, meaning that there are really no opposites, then there's really nothing looping. There's really nothing there's really nothing known. It's just seemingly there is a knowing, but it's also an unknowing. So if the unknowing and the unknowing and knowing are the same, then the loop is not really happening, isn't it? There is good in bad and bad in good in the story, or it's just a belief. Good or bad are just words. They're just made up. Good or bad, true or false are just words. But I'll get back to that. There's a question here from David. Hey, David.
Hey,
Hey.
so you're saying like knowing and not knowing is the same.
It's the same, yeah.
Is it because they're both just concepts?
Both of them are concepts. Both are just words. Let's even just get back to words, right? Every single word is made up.
Right.
And if you look at another word, it's just another word. If you look for words, you'll end up with words. But every single word is made up. So knowing and then knowing are just the same.
Yeah, it's freaky.
Yeah. It is freaky, right? Because it's like, and this is just a story. Don't believe any of this. For example, when someone basically expresses that, when there's a seeing that there's really just this swirling of words, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like, that maintains this reality. When there's a seeming collapse, it's kind of like, it's actually speechlessness because you don't really know what's happening. For example, if there's a blackout right now of words, meaning that words, for example, if there's a short circuit and the words are not possible anymore, there's no memory, kind of like dementia. You will not even know what this is. You will even not know who you are. You will not even know what God is. The moment that you think that you are God, it collapses already. It's almost like, oh, it's another delusion. So to see through the delusion, see through the words, that words of God and not God are the same. Knowing and not knowing are the same. Good or bad are the same. You can say that this is all God, and you can also that you can't
Whatever
even say
word
that.
you want.
Yeah, you can, but that comes from knowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was watching one of your videos last night, and I kind of started like that short circuit. Felt like,
Yeah.
and it's like even saying it now, it's like, did that happen? Like, what are we saying about what now? But it did feel like the words kind of, it just was becoming more obvious. Like, oh, everything is, it's got a word in between, like not like in between me and the thing, but kind of, it seems like, oh, I'm just seeing through a lens of words and concepts, and then trying to look at like, what is it that I feel like is me, or what was it that I feel like is seeing that or knowing that? And it's like, that's just like you said, like the kind of this swirling storm of past and future plans, and like everything about like identity is a word.
It is,
But
isn't it?
like there is like this kind of wordless like life. I mean, you can't call it anything without using a word, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like
And that's what
you
I'm
gotta
trying to
dance
express in
around
this
it.
whole 3 days, right? I'm just going to call it timeless aliveness, although you could just call it like lollipops and whatever.
Yeah.
It's there's this unspeakable, I'm saying, appearance that's invisible, that's seemingly appearing, but you're not seeing it. Because you base your reality from words.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of terrifying too, because like when the words start, like they just kind of become shells, like empty shells.
They are,
they don't
yeah.
hold anything. They don't have anything in them. So like when it's stuff that I think I know about myself or about the world, and you see there's like, oh, there's that kind of emptiness to all the words, then that's kind of like makes me want to like throw up a little bit, there's like some sort of visceral reaction. Maybe that's just how it is here, but like
yeah.
just hearing it. And it's like I've been listening to this for a while, and I've only recently started seeing, like, just from listening to you, started feeling like visceral, like, ugh, that's gross. Like there's something really uncomfortable about seeing that, like, man, all the words are just that just meaningless. Like,
yeah, because it's really just, it's funny, right? Because there is going to be stuckness in words, right? Because even landing into seemingly kind of like, the last house, you know what I'm saying? But you can get stuck in the last house too. Because the last house, I'm saying, even though there's nothing, it's radical non-duality, non-compromising non-duality is almost like it drowns everything. But what if you're holding on to words still? And the words, sometimes there's no me, there's just this and everything, and holding on to that words and everything, right? But
more words. Yeah.
What if the words that you're holding on to doesn't float anymore? What if it sinks? Meaning it's meaningless. It can get really scary. I unearthed a whole bunch of journals that I wrote in the apparent dropping away that never really happened. So I'll be writing kind of like these sentences, and I would just press kind of like the what do you call it, the underline. So for many pages, because I can't express it in words. So I was like, what is, I completely forgotten about it, right? So they'll be like, what is going on in a couple of words? And all of a sudden there's just this lines and lines and lines and lines and lines. And I would basically come back and I'm like, I've not been able to speak for like a past, few hours, because there's just this kind of like, the words would come and you're like, oh, what are those? They're like phantom words now, right? You're kind of like living in a ghost world full of ghosts. And you think that it's kind of like that. I don't know if you've seen the movie, the Others, right? So you're convinced that you're seeing ghosts, but you're actually the ghost.
Yeah.
It's like the plot twist. You're like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
That you actually only, the you experience, right, is only a word. That me is only a word. David is just a word. And the word comes up with more words like, oh, I don't feel great right now. I feel like, that this, and there's just words kind of like just basically coming up with more words to maintain the hidden open secret that it's really nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrifying. This is another word, but yeah, it seems like more and more the words like come up, and now they're just not there as much. Like, and that's, the story isn't like entertained for as long, because it's like, this is all words. Like, this is Yep, that's all words. And there's like birds
Yeah.
outside today, and it's been
Yeah. Yeah, I've been
nice. And
speaking.
it's like, huh, there's no words needed for that. Like,
No.
and then the stories like start up again, and then they're almost have like a different flavor of like it doesn't matter, like whatever the
Yeah.
thoughts are, whatever the story, the
It's more
labels are, like it,
transparent, right?
yeah,
It's
transparency.
softer, right? There's a
Yeah.
softness to
Mhm.
it because the words that seem to create this um sharpness or edges, right? Or this kind of like, heaviness and everything are beginning to soften. And it's scary sometimes because all the words that, and the biggest word for me was, the source, the self, right? Because here I was kind of like on my quest to find myself. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm just looking for words.
Yeah. Oh, whew, whew. Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah. The I am is looking for a word, which is also a word.
Yeah, we're fucked, huh?
Yeah. But what's funny because I've been speaking about this for like over a year now, and not until I can like really look at, you know what I'm saying? And this is really obvious. Like what I've said is like there's a clarity here, but the moment that I speak about it, it almost muddies it, right? The clarity, because it's already clear. You don't have to say anything. When there's no word speaking, it's this already. So I was looking at my old, and it's a blessing that my other computer collapsed, right? Because I was able to see all of this stuff that I wrote at that moment of kind of like speechlessness, because there was I just could not express it. And I was like, oh, okay, because the words, that comes up after is just really, really obscuring it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it is the words too, though. Like not
Yeah.
like what the words are saying, but
Mm,
just wording, you know.
yeah. Yeah. So when,
I've
when I
heard
did
that.
that, when I did that meeting with a whole bunch of people, it was just really, it was just getting kind of like really kind of like heated up, right? Because they were coming up with like a lot of words. So I just basically, I'm like, why don't we just call any words that will come up just this?
Hey,
And they're like, oh. And it started kind of like almost like it's almost like there's a hypnotism with words that you think that there's meaning, like you're hypnotized by the words, that like the source, the self, divinity, absolute truth, and everything. There's a hypnotism to it that is so heavy. But if you replace it with it's just this. You mean this is also the truth and not truth? It's just this. This is the absolute.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. I'll be right back in a second. I just have to my doggy just a second, okay? Sorry about that. AI robots will be fun interacting with them, and hopefully they don't have the human emotional baggage. This is already AI. This is already robots. There's nothing behind this. Both are perceptions. Remember the song, the words? Yeah, the words get in the way. I think it's by Miami Sound Machine, right? DJ here. Gloria Estefan. If language, including sign language, was not taught to children, could they develop the belief in a separate self? No. Separation is it's almost like a phenomena that it's a learned kind of like language through language. That would be great, Leela, to, I know you do VR, to create a VR without language. Like, like, I don't know how it will work, but a VR without kind of like any languaging involved is just going back into some innocence or something that is just what is. That'd be kind of cool.
Emerson?
Hi.
Hi, Emerson. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Thank you for this. This is awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I've been going through a lot of frustration and repetitive patterns. Just like, actually, I just my whole life is repetitive patterns.
Yeah.
Just crazy. Don't know how to get out of it. I don't know how to get out of it. I mean, the only way to get out of it is to drop the me, but there's no way of dropping the me. There's always this feeling there's something wrong, okay?
Yeah.
There's resistance, there's rejection.
Yeah.
I see that the minute there's any kind of exclusion, it's rejecting part of what is. So there's like this dichotomy there that's not a dichotomy. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong, but I see it as something wrong, and I'm trying to control it. I'm trying to fix it. I'm trying to exclude it because it's like, okay, I don't want to get into the story in detail, but we got hacked, and couldn't get into many of my accounts. It was just going around in circles, 19-hour days trying to fix things. And one of the credit bureaus doesn't even recognize my social security number, my password, my address, my date of birth. It's like, okay, why don't I wipe out my entire identity? That would be great. So it's just this, how to stop the loop of repetitive.
Oh, yeah. There's no stopping the loop. See, that's the thing, right?
It's just coming from knowing it, because I just see that I've been excluding half
because
of
the moment
making
that you
something wrong all the time.
Yeah, the moment that you try to stop it, it fuels it. I don't know if you notice it.
I did. I did. It gets more fucked up. So there's no answer.
It will keep on playing, you know what I'm saying? It's just playing, and you can't stop it. You can't pause it. You can't rewind it. You can't avoid it. But there is
acceptance, maybe, huh?
That really acceptance. It's the acceptance of the not accepting it.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to accept it.
And who's accepting it anyway?
Exactly, because there's no one doing any of that. Meaning it's like it's in neutral zone. It's always the neutral. It's almost like it's like, oh, I hate this, but there's no one hating it. But it's okay to hate it because there's no one hating it. I'm refusing this, but I can't refuse this. It's
like making it all okay, right?
Even trying to make it okay fuels it. If you really look at it.
Yes.
So
I see it all. It's just perpetuating it.
It just perpetuates it. Any movement. It's kind of like, you know what? Any movement. It's like, I've mentioned this before in one of my things. It's like a game, right? The moment that you move, you're losing it. The moment that even you think that you're not moving is another movement.
It's like part of me just says, I just want to die, so I don't have to deal with this stuff anymore. Just be in oblivion, just be in like sleep.
Of course.
I know that many times you've spoken about this is death. This is death.
Yeah.
It's like if
it's gonna play no matter what, right? But it's also not playing. It's hard to understand it because it's like the only way that there's this functioning is by, is thinking that there's just this grasping of it in movement. But this is, it's also this, meaning that seeming kind of like, it's contradictory, right? Because that's also peace, but you're seeing it as chaos. And you're trying to find the peace in chaos, but that's just perpetuating chaos. Does that make any sense? It's just like there's this dualistic holding on to something that does not, it's just this. But you know what? I wanted to call you actually because that happened to me. And if I was not doing this speaking, I'll probably be helping people, that had identity theft, because that's what happened to me.
It's like it did, but it didn't. It's like it moved. We got everything wiped from our computers, and then we lost some of our programs. It's like it messed everything got so convoluted.
Oh, yeah.
Working for hours trying to get passwords back, and it's just been, I don't want to get into the story. And then yesterday I had to get a new iPhone. I tried to make it simple, and it just got so complicated. Everything is just so complicated. Why? I just want simple, and everything just gets to me more.
But wanting the simple makes it
So
complicated. But wanting the simplicity, making it, wanting something different, complicates it. Does that make any sense?
Why is it the opposite? I always thought
always the opposite. Yeah.
They always spoke about positive thinking. I never got anything from positive thinking. It was
no. And that's why, it's the
it's like asserting the
affirmations. The affirmations of spirituality actually is quite painful, because if you say that this is, I am peace, or I am God, and everything, and all that kind of stuff like that, you're going to pull out all of your hair, right? And scream, because it's going to have it's going to rebound. It's going to have that, or you just have to accept this, even if you don't want to accept it. So all of that, so it's just this. So if you have, there's no one doing any of this. And that's what, even though you feel like this is happening to you,
it's just
not making any sense. It's going to play, I'm saying it's like, it's like, again, it's like watching a movie of something that's happening to you, and you trying to jump to the screen and try to fix it. It's going to play.
Yes.
No matter what.
And trying to control it and fix it makes it worse, because it's fighting it. Resistance makes it persist,
It does. It does. Yeah. And that's what happens with seeking, right? It's the same thing as seeking, right? Because there's this seeking for liberation, but the liberation is going to play out as identity theft, as frustration, everything. So there's this, that's how liberation is. That's how freedom appears. It's a freedom. It's appearing as
unconditional. Yes.
It's unconditional, right? And so it's not trying to teach you anything. It's almost like it's destroying you. It's almost
so exhausted from it. And I know you spoke about exhaustion, but it's like, fuck it, let's do it already. I just want to be liberated from all this stuff, and then there's no liberation. So it's just
it's funny, because when there was a point in this character's life that everything was just falling apart, that I could not even open my eyes anymore. I would just be in bed. I'm like, okay, I want this to be over. I want this to be over. And then I would and I would be like, oh, I wish I would just not wake up anymore. That kind of thing, right? It was just depression, because it was just getting hammered over and over and over and over again. And it was trying to get out of a situation. But what was being missed, right, is that this experience is going to be bad or good, but all experiences are illusory, but it's going to feel like it's absolutely real, because the experience is you. You are the experience.
Yes. That's what feels real.
Yeah. And you are experiencing reality, which is an illusion. So everything's going to feel real, absolutely real to you, but you are the experience.
Yes, sure.
So
it's like you are the glimpse.
Right? You are the glimpse. You are the illusion, basically, right? You are the illusion, and everything that you experience is an illusion, but you will never get out of that illusion. It's because everything that
You're carrying it with you.
you are it. But
Yeah.
but also the opposite of that is that since you are an illusion, there's also no you.
Since you are. Yeah, right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Since
Yeah.
you are the one you so meaning that everything that's happening is an illusion.
Mhm.
But the illusion is reality. It's
I've seen it. I've seen the dream. I've
Yeah.
seen it. I've seen it.
Yeah.
But then when I'm in the midst of this heavy stuff, it just feels so real.
Because that's how unconditionally free it is.
Wow.
Yeah. It's almost missing it, right? Because for example, if this, okay, let's just call this, I'm going to make a story here. This is not really relevant. It's kind of like you're going to this ride. You sign up for a ride, and this ride is going to have ups and downs. But you notice that you don't like the downs. You just want up.
Mhm.
Too bad. It's a ride of
Yeah,
ups and
it's
downs.
part of the ride. No wonder I never ride roller coasters.
It's gonna like, hey, Marcy, there's this simulation. It's called ups and downs. I'm like, okay, I'm in. And then midway through the simulation of ups and downs, you're like, I don't like the simulation of down.
Yeah.
It is.
There's nothing either right or wrong, but thinking makes it so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just Shakespeare said it.
Yeah.
And all the world's a stage.
It's a stage.
Said, and the sound and fury adding to, it's nothing.
It's
nothing.
Yeah.
In the end. I mean, I see it. I look back on the hack and I say, oh my God, did it really happen? Well, I was immersed in it. It really happened. I was just not sleeping for 2 months, and it's just, now it's over. It's just like, did it ever really happen? No, it's like this ephemeral.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So let me,
transparent nothing.
This is just another story, right? Because this happened to, not like exactly like that. First, there was a character that I was trying to assist and everything, and when it's just seen that without any of that emotional kind of like, that this is happening to me.
Yes.
It actually is just what is, right? It can be frustrating, but there's no more.
Not happening to me.
It's not happening to you. Yeah. So there's no when it becomes an impersonal
always
thing.
Personalized. Yes.
It's going to be a lot of work.
The suffering is always the identity, always from the person.
Oh,
it's
and again, there's nothing wrong
with your neighbor. If it's happening to your neighbor, it's just like, okay, it's happening. But the minute it becomes your problem, that's what's going on.
Yeah, it's like watching that movie, The Whale. Have you seen that the movie?
I haven't seen it yet. No, okay. I want to see it. Yeah.
The last 30 minutes is just so heartbreaking, right? So it's like a sob fest and everything.
Yeah.
That's difficult to watch, right? But that's not you.
Yeah.
It's just a stage.
Yeah.
It's going to feel absolutely real. I think I was sobbing, like I was like holding on to biting my finger because like, it is what is. It's going to feel, because the ride, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
This ride is going to be ups and downs. It's going to be sobbing, laughing. It's everything is in this. And, but it's not you.
But what relates to that,
because you are the
watching
ride.
the movie, there's something personal that relates to those emotions that triggers that sobbing, isn't there? There's
not
still
really. It's not really.
What is that?
Like, it's just what is.
Okay.
It's just what is. There's really no cause and effect, but the story, there it is
cause
again, and effect.
Yeah.
Because if you really look at it, right, you're really looking at words. And the words basically are saying that, oh, there's a lonely man there. You're crying at the lonely man, or there is a conflict there, or there's an identity theft happening there. There's going to be anger and frustration. It's a reaction of separation. But if it's seen that there's really no separation, that's just this. All of it is this.
So and you mentioned anger. The rage has just been, when I try to get in, blocked, and I feel blocked, the rage has just been, I scream at the computer. I'm like, just
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because I've figured stuff out that Apple can't even figure out. It's like I call them so many times, and then it's like, how did this, it just like drops in. This kind of like, it's not knowledge, but it's just something comes in that
Oh yeah.
allows me to solve it. It's like,
Everything in this apparent, and there's really nothing happening. It's just what seems to perpetually drive this is a cause and effect. So it's always going to be a reaction. So if it's seen that the reaction is just reacting to itself, meaning that there's really no opposite.
So there's nothing that precipitated because in time, we always think in time, linear time, this happened, so it caused this, and there's no causality, right?
Yeah. For example, like, with the identity theft, like, why did I believe that? Why did I click on that thing, that led you into this identity theft, or you blame others. It's always going to be.
There was no choice, and there's
no choice. Yeah. It's going to play as it is, no matter what.
Is it an instead? My mom used to say, God bless her. She used to say, I know there's no God. It's an instead of. She used to say it's an instead of. Well, this happened instead of, but then that's like cause and effect too.
That's a cause and effect too. Yeah. So there's really no way out of it, right? Because it's just this, right? So it's almost like it's like it's no stop. It's like a movie is playing, but you can't get out of the movie and press pause.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I lived through that.
Yeah.
I know you'd like horror movies, but I can't stand them.
Oh yeah, I will just play.
And my father did movie advertising, and he brought us to The Exorcist, and I was fucking under the seat. Everybody was throwing up in the lobby. It was before it even opened, and it was
I've heard about that. It was like
I had dreams for 30 years of that voice, and that it was horrible. They're remaking it now, but it was just a nightmare that I couldn't get out of it. Now, if I start to dream about it, I walk out of the theater. It's like somehow I know to walk out because, but I was trapped there.
Yeah, because there's this belief again that it's real, that it's really happening, right?
Yeah.
So when there is just this belief, even if there's this belief that it's real, right? There's just gonna I'm gonna walk out of here, right? It's just like, yeah. And you basically figured it out, right? It's gonna what seems to be happening is the exact same thing.
Yeah.
You think it's a nightmare that you can't get out of, but it's just a nightmare.
So what's the best way see, I'm looking for a solution. There you go. Then immediately I look for a procedure or a technique or a solution to the out of habit from the years of seeking and the years of, of striving to get myself out of, well, what's the solution? You made it. How do you, there's that
well, there's no
again.
solution because there's no problem. it's like it's like seeing, it's like being awake in a dream and you're seeing that it's just a dream.
Lucid dreaming.
There's no you, but this is already awake. It's already seen. It is not really, saying it's just you just described it, right? You're kind of like you're all of that thing that happened. It's this already, right? It's like it's almost like going back to the movie. If you're trying to, it's like still watching it when it's already seen that it's just a show. It's just a stage, right?
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks so much. Thank you. This is great.
But we'll chat. We'll chat. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Raising my vibration automatically lowers it. Oh, talk about vibration. When there was this spiritual teacher here, it really believed in that it was operating from a higher consciousness or an awareness, and it protected it by all means, right? For example, if there was a room that there was some gossip happening, I would walk out of the room because that would lower my vibration. If I was listening to music, that was not supporting this higher vibration, or eating food that, but so it was just basically a lot of rejection of this. Axel, did you want to say something, Axel? No? All right. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
I don't know if you can see me.
Hi, Catherine. How are you?
Hiya.
Hiya.
I'm not been to these meetings for ages. So just saying hi. How are you?
How are you?
You're looking well,
Oh,
as
thank
always.
you. Thank you.
I keep missing them. Yeah, life just happens.
Yeah.
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 And you're doing another one that starts in about an hour or something?
In about an hour, yeah. In about an hour.
Yeah.
So there's I think there's like 10, 13 minutes left to this meeting, and there's just another one in the hour. Yeah, it's just fun doing this, right? Because there's just this energetic emptiness, right? That expresses something that cannot be expressed. And it just really exposes that there's no meaning in all of this. And when it's seen that there's just this meaninglessness, then there's this aliveness, right? That in whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I seem to be trapped in the unwanted.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I was going to say, I know.
And that's okay.
Yeah, and I know that, yeah, no. Well, I know and I don't know that something can or cannot be done about it, it's, so I feel flat. I don't feel like doing much at all. And yeah, I don't feel like, sometimes I socialize and other times I just quite happy to sit at home. And it feels slightly a depressive mood, a bit of a low mood. But
it's just what is, no matter what it is,
yeah.
right? In this seeming kind of
Yeah.
like, seeing through this, there was almost like the narrative of trying to do something, kind of like it, or the what do you call that? The neurosis trying to, wears out, right? It doesn't exist anymore. So there's no more neurotic finding, and there's no more neurotic seeking. It just becomes this, it almost like derails everything. So sometimes there's just this kind of like, what's the point of this? There's this almost like a retirement of sorts, right? It's kind of like, it's just what is. And it's also the same if there is this kind of like, okay, you know what? I feel like going out, I feel like walking, and everything is the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all natural, I guess.
Yeah, it's
Is
almost
that
like
what you're
back into
saying?
sanity, although there's no insanity. I'm saying it's almost kind of like everything is, it's almost like that feverish dream of trying to get something almost kind of like just flattens, right? You're like, oh,
Yeah.
It's like the naturalness of something that is just what is.
Whereas here I can feel there's a struggle.
Yeah.
Whatever frustration or whatever there is, it's and not sleeping well at night, and it's really unusual. It's like, and I can be quite happy just lying in bed there, not sleeping, but I don't know. There's a more of a tension.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's personal.
Yeah, it's when there is just this seeing of whatever it is, it's not even personal or impersonal, it's just what is. No matter what is seemingly, the moment that there is an adding into a personal story, which is also what is, what I'm saying, it doesn't really matter, right? Then there's something wrong or right, which is just another personal, story. So when the personal is seemingly seen as just empty, so there's just a story of right or wrong.
Yeah.
And there's no one that is a judge or
I can picture the movie and there's no audience then. It's just
there's
a movie.
No audience, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's an understanding, but I can sort of, yeah.
Yeah. It's just
so
whatever is playing is not playing.
It's not playing.
Yeah. Even if it feels like it's playing. Whatever is chaotic is peaceful. Whatever is missing is already this.
Oh, it's funny.
Yeah. It's almost seeing through that there's no veil. And the veil that seems to appear of kind of like this or that is you. When you see that the veil, what I'm saying, is not even there, then there's no you that's seeing anymore. So the seeing seems to create this, either this or that, this or that. But what if this and that is just this? It's peace already.
Yeah.
It's peace
That's
already.
it.
Yeah, it's peace already. But peace, that's something that is not an idea of what peace is. But peace, something that is just, it's just unthinkable peace.
No concepts.
No concepts, yeah.
No understanding.
No.
Yeah. Oh, it's great.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Feel free to come back Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Emerson.
Of course, Catherine. Feel free to come back for more questions. I just want to answer this question here. Maybe I made a mistake, but the break after the second meeting is only 2 hours. Maybe I made a mistake, not 3 hours. Sorry about that. I'll take a look at that when we meet. After this one, there's an hour break, and then after the second one, there's just 2 hours break. Hey, Katerina.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to ask, these meetings, are they held on Fridays? At what time?
This one is actually a 3-day event. So this is 3 meetings today. There's 3 meetings tomorrow, and there's 3 meetings on Sunday. But usually the Fridays is 2 o'clock New York time.
2 o'clock New York time.
Yeah.
Okay. Because on your site I couldn't find that information.
No
worries. Since I'm talking, as far as I understand, all the efforts are actually working counter, like all the efforts are reinforcing the veil, the me, right? So there's really not much to do or not do.
Yeah. Thank you. There's no one doing or not doing, because there's this seeming kind of like idea that there's an opposite, right? That I'm doing the opposite, but there's no such things as opposite. So the opposite idea perpetuates the separation. So for example, if you think that there's no me, then it reinforces the me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
it just goes into this. It just goes into this. It fuels it, right? It perpetuates it. It creates this illusion of doing, although there's no doing. Yeah.
So just being it's not okay to be envious of your state, as opposed to, because that would also mean that I'm not okay with what is, which is living.
Yeah. It's just whatever arises, right, is it. So even the comparison, or the thinking that there's something better there is this. It's this. But there's no one here. There's no separation here. It's just this. But in this, wholeness or whatever, what might seem to appear as, Katerina and Emerson, it's also this. It's perfect already.
Right. Okay.
Even if it doesn't seem perfect, that's perfect too.
Even if it does, yes. Okay.
Yeah. Even if it's like, oh, yeah, whatever it is perfectly as it is. It's like this or that, meaning that, oh, I wish I have that. Is also this.
I wish I didn't feel separate is
also this, yeah.
Is not, but it cannot really be helped, If I try not to feel bad about feeling separate, then I don't know.
Then
nothing can be done, really. It's very hopeless.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
It is. And but that's also kind of like almost like a, and this is just, it's almost like a revelation, right? If there's nothing that can be done, if his seeking is hopeless, then there's no doer and there's no seeker. Meaning that it's already this.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's wrong with this? What's right with this? It's just this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Keep on coming back for more questions. We're going to be back in about an hour. We're going to have an hour break. And after an hour, there's going to be a 2-hour break. So we have 3 sessions today, 3 sessions tomorrow. The reason that I moved the meeting tomorrow to 12 is because Jim Newman has a meeting. Someone requested, I didn't know. So after Jim's, so Jim has a Saturday meeting. So yeah. Although there's no Jim Newman and there's no one here. Thank you so much, everyone. This has been the next one is going to be the best meeting ever. But go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. Who's that?
Jim Newman's meeting goes till 12:30.
Oh, that's it? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I don't know. I didn't know that. But I thought it was 10
It's an
o'clock.
hour and a half meeting.
It's
Hour
10
and a half.
o'clock?
It is. It goes till 11:30.
Okay, so 11:30. So this one starts at 12. Doesn't it? So an hour and a half is still
It's the
11:30.
same 11:30. Okay, cool.
Yeah. That's why I made it 12 o'clock.
Well
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Well done.
I'm like, oh. But yeah, we'll see you back in about an hour. Thank you so much, everyone. And bye. There's a breakout room too if you guys want to stay.